everyone, it's Aaron here from Console Deals, where today we are taking a look at the new Dualshock 4 back button attachment. What's this, I hear you asking? Well, it effectively promises to transform your Dualshock 4 controller into a Pro controller, along the lines of something you'd see with the Xbox Elite or the Elite Series 2. PlayStation obviously doesn't have an equivalent Pro controller to either of those, so its answer is, rather than sell you a new Dualshock 4, a Dualshock 4.5 or something of sorts, it's going to sell you something like this separately, actually released here on Valentine's Day in the UK. Retails for about $25.99, and big thanks to our friends over at Game, in which this is exclusive here in the UK, for sending this one over for us to take a look at. So without further ado, let's unbox this bad boy and get some initial impressions. Okay, so the unboxing is done. Didn't take very long, and this is what you are left with. So, like I said, $25.99, adds 2 extra buttons to the back of your Dualshock 4, and it looks very, very smart. Not gonna lie, there's already a good feedback that I can feel. Don't know if you can hear that, very clickety, a bit clickety. And it, as you can see, it's got a standard 3.5mm jack, just pops into the bottom of your Dualshock 4, and away you go. So we can peel this off and there'll be a digital display that'll walk you through the different functions. So before I go any further, let's take a look at how it plays in action. Then after that, I can pop back and give you our thoughts. Okay, so here I am, back from using the Dualshock 4 back button attachment. Generally, very good and sleekly designed product, I'd say. Just got a standard white Dualshock 4 controller here. As you can see, it slots in rather nicely along the back there. Particularly when you're gripping it, your middle fingers tend to rest very comfortably on the back of the Dualshock 4. It's got a nice click to it, as I've already mentioned, but I would say the one initial drawback is just how the process of actually putting it on can actually be quite scary. It takes some effort to get it in. They recommend that you use your thumb to push it into the slot at the bottom there using the 3.5mm jack. But once it's in there, generally it lines up quite nicely. And like I said, you can assign this to any of the major buttons other than the D-pad buttons of the Dualshock 4 controller. So how does that work? Well, basically, this only can work once you power on your Dualshock 4, so immediately after taking it out of the box, you need to pop it out, slot it in according to the instructions, and like I've already mentioned, pretty intense if you're not used to fiddling around with ports and stuff of that sort. But once you've done that, don't worry, the hard part is over. Then you just simply switch on your Dualshock 4, as you can see it's coming on now, and then that is actually, rather cleverly, what powers the attachment itself. So there's no internal battery needed. You don't have to charge it or worry about anything like that. PlayStation seemingly thought of everything. So once you've done that, you just give it a tap here, and it's this which lets you cycle through different profiles. So hopefully you'll be seeing some up-close shots now of how this all operates. But basically, the back button, the circular thing here, operates as an LED screen. And I'm just showing profile 1 here. And during my testing with it, I chose to assign the back buttons to L3 and R3, which I think is will be a pretty common choice for players, whether or not you play competitively or if you're just more of a casual player looking for that extra ease of use. Because I think we can all universally agree, for all the Dualshock 4's very limited problems or issues, clicking in L3, clicking in R3, regardless of the controller you're using, it never feels as intuitive as it can be. So it's nice to have the option there to assign L3 and R3 to the back button of the controller. And it works really well, as I said. So let's say you want to change the assignments, because L3 and R3 aren't the automatic suggestions right out of the box. So you tap there to see your profile, but then if you hold down again, it's actually incredibly easy just to cycle through the different functions you want. You can even assign it to the option button if for whatever reason you want to do that. X, square. You can do the directional buttons, I beg your pardon. So earlier I mentioned that you might not be able to do that. You can. It seems like the only button you cannot assign a back paddle to is, the share button and the main touchpad. But other than that, options, all the face buttons, directional buttons, and like I said, L3 and R3. You can even use it for L2 and R2. I know some people don't like the concaving of L2 and R2. Even though they were worse back in the PS3 era with the DualShock 3, they really started to slide in and you didn't get any good feedback at all. Here on the DualShock 4 obviously works better, but if you're still someone that struggles with the sensation of holding L2 to aim down your sights in a first-person shooter, say, and then R2 to fire, you can just literally squeeze the back pad and you're all good to go.
Okay guys, just halting things here to pick up on one final note I forgot to mention in the main video. Anyone with a wired headset that's used to plugging it into the bottom of your DualShock 4, you're still good to use the back button attachment because it just features a replacement port neatly at the bottom. Okay, back to the review.
So generally very impressed with the DualShock 4 back button attachment. As I mentioned in the intro, it retails for about £25.99 here in the UK, pounds. And I think that's more than reasonable when you consider that you can probably pick up the DualShock 4 solo for around £50 these days. So pop that on, it's about £75 for the whole thing if you were lacking a DualShock 4 already, which is still significantly less than the Xbox Elite or the Elite Series 2 controller. Granted, you do get obviously more precision in the thumbsticks with the Elite Series 2 controller, hair trigger locks and all that fancy mumbo jumbo. But if you're just purely someone who wants the freedom of having 2 extra back buttons on the back of your DualShock whilst playing PS4, I think PlayStation have actually smashed it out of the park. There's not a lot of complaints here at all. So yeah, generally very impressed with this one. As I mentioned, £25.99 is actually an exclusive to game here in the UK. At the time of recording, stock is actually very scarce, but you can always keep your eyes locked onto consoledeals.com. We'll put the link to the official website down below, and we can keep you updated as soon as these bad boys come back in stock. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't be afraid to like, share and subscribe, but then we'll do lots of more stuff in this cool sort of studio setup. But until then, thank you for watching and happy gaming.